The Giants hadn't won a series on the road in Miami since 2016 until today. They hadn't won a road series all season until today. So today was a big win to win 2 out of 3 in Miami, get on a happy flight coming home and facing the pesky reigning NL champion D-backs.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since way back in 2015. I've been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I am a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you haven't already. Please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And where we get started, yes, is jumping right in to the Giants winning what I think was a pretty important series. You do not want to be going into Miami, a team that has been, I don't know if they're worst or second worst in the National League, with up there, down there with the Rockies, I should say. But it's a place they've had a lot of trouble winning. They have not won a series there since 2016. That's very hard to believe. I mean, that is a long time. 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. Even in 2021, when they won 107 games, they did not win their series in Miami. Possible it was a 4-game series that they split. I don't know. But that's 5. And then 2022, 6, 2023, 7. So this is the 8th year. It's taken 8 tries before they were able to win a series there. And it's not like the Marlins have been particularly good in any of those years. Granted, 2020, there were no games in Miami because of COVID. So actually 7 tries. But regardless, the Giants were able to go in and win this series, push the Marlins back to 4-15, keep them down, kick them while they're down. And for the Giants, they improved to a okay 8-11. It's like not great, but it's also not abysmal and not something to really lose sleep over at this stage of the season. And they do it behind Keaton Winn and strong performances by the bullpen. Eric Miller with his most impressive outing of the season by far, with a high leverage inning right after the Giants had taken the lead. He just comes in and like blows smoke. He touched 100 miles an hour from the left side out of the pen there. Tyler Rogers gave up a couple hits, but got the reigning, actually back-to-back reigning batting champion, one in each league, Luis Arraez, to ground into a double play there in a huge spot. And then Camilo Doval with another save. And all of a sudden, things stabilizing for guys like Doval, who had some struggles early on. Tyler Rogers as well, struggles early on. And then Keaton Winn, I mean, 6 innings, 1 run, and it was a solo homer. And so Keaton Winn, the numbers are, and we're going to look at numbers as we've been doing a lot later on in the show, but Keaton Winn has pitched well this season. He's got a 4.09 ERA, and 4 of those runs that he's allowed, which I imagine he's not allowed that many runs given he's only had a few starts, like 4 starts, I guess, probably. I'd have to look, and I will look. But those runs really shouldn't have happened because of a first inning grand slam. The first pitch of the game should have been an out, but it was not caught. Ball was lost in the sun. So anyway, they go into Miami tonight, or today, this morning, I should say. The game started at 9 in the morning here on the West Coast, and they did what they needed to do. And it wasn't necessarily easy. Giants had 9 hits. They drew 2 walks. They had another relatively high strikeout game. The Marlins had a very interesting plan of attack against the Giants in this series, like not throwing fastballs, basically throwing nothing but junk, so to speak, with changeups and sliders and slurves and sweepers and curves, all that stuff, just not fastballs. And it took the Giants struck out a lot in this series, but they essentially got the big hit when they needed it in their two wins. I mean, in their win in the first game of the series, it was a big comeback. They were down 3-0 early, and they scored one kind of early to chip away, and then three late. And then that was kind of the story again today. Giants had the lead until the bottom of the sixth when Keaton Winn gave up that solo homer. But then the Giants answered right back with a run in the top of the seventh, and they got one as well, an insurance run, big insurance run in the top of the eighth that gave them a little bit of breathing room. And so, yeah, it's like there might be a tendency for the more pessimistic fan to be like, yeah, well, it's just the Marlins, and so you should beat them. Well, it's just not that easy. Baseball, this Marlins team, wherever they go next, or they're staying home or whatever, don't be shocked if they sweep that series. I mean, it just happens. And so especially given what I just said, the Marlins have owned the Giants in Miami since 2016 for whatever reason, even though they haven't been particularly good over that span overall. And so, yeah, it was the pitching, the hitting kind of struggled again, but they did set the table a lot. It's funny, I've never talked about runners in scoring position so much as I have this season, but mostly because I'm pointing out that it's like one day they'll go 1 for 9 like they did today. By the way, I believe it was today, their first run, this is exactly what I'm talking about. The runner scored from first on a double. And so that's why I don't like runners in scoring position, because the runner who was on first, Jorge Soler, happened to be in scoring position when a double was hit. So why was he? What you were just like imagining that singles are the only kind of hit that counts, but doubles happen, triples happen, homers happen, and when homers happen, everybody's in scoring position, even the hitter. So I'm gonna stay on that soapbox for another 140 something games here. So deal with it. But yeah, Tyro Estrada, he was the one who hit that double, and Matt Chapman, I believe it was Tyro Estrada. I actually could be, yeah, I believe it was Tyro Estrada. Matt Chapman hit a big double as well. I think that was with 2 outs late to give the Giants the lead or to give them that insurance run. But regardless, the pitching was good enough, and that's been the problem. Like, I was looking at the stats for the Giants this season before the game started today, and I was surprised to see that their offense overall, like their position player mix overall, ranks in the top. It was like 14th, but nonetheless, it's the top half of the league in just overall FanGraphs wins above replacement. So a little bit below average offensively, may seem like way below average, but only a little bit below average offensively. But they've been a pretty good defensive team, and for the most part, a pretty good base running team. Base running does not just mean stolen bases. It's, taking extra bases and not making outs on the bases, although they have made some outs on the bases, but so do other teams. So it's really the pitching. Like, when you look at their team ERA, it was up around 5 coming into this game. And so when your team ERA and you play in such a pitcher-friendly park, although most of their games have been road games at this point, you need to be doing better than an ERA around 5, especially when you're, for the most part, having trouble scoring runs, which they have. And so I expect the pitching to get better. Like, when all is said and done, I expect their starting rotation to be one of the best in baseball, and they've got some really good relievers too, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be a good pitching team. And I could just continue. I just think this is a team that hasn't yet kind of clicked on all cylinders. But when they do, they're capable of going on a sustained run of being good. And hopefully that started here, and they come home, and they've got a lot of home games coming up. We'll preview those coming up in just a minute. And hopefully we're going to talk to Millard from Locked On D-backs ahead of this big early season matchup between the Giants and the reigning National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks. So we'll get into that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and the most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. We all know it. Spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. So don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your prize pick entries like I've been doing. Whether it's strikeouts, runs batted in, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your prize picks entry today. One of my favorite things is that Prize Picks is in fact available to play in the great state of California. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Monopoly Go. You all know I have a competitive side. I wouldn't be this into the Giants if I didn't. I've been told I'm a competitive person. So yeah, I do have a competitive side. We all do to some extent. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it because it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part for me is messing around with my friends. I can charge them rent on iconic properties that are mine, just like in classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults for riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. All right, as promised, we are going to preview what's to come here. The Giants finally coming home to play some home games. They've only had one home stand and they've had 2 road trips, including a 4-gamer in San Diego to start the season. So they've played among the fewest home games in the sport, maybe tied for the fewest, but now they've got a big long homestand coming up, 4 against the D-backs, 3 against the Mets, off day, and then 3 against the Pirates, another off day, and then they go to Boston, where I actually might be going myself. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers tomorrow. I'm either going to be talking with Millard. He doesn't know this yet, but I want to talk with him. So I've reached out to him, or I'm going to. I honestly can't remember. But we'll either be talking with Millard to preview the series, or we'll talk to him after the series is over. One or the other. And if it's not talking to him tomorrow, we're going to be doing a mailbag. So look out on Twitter for the prompt. We've got another week's worth of games since the last mailbag, and so that'll be fun to get to, especially with the Giants coming off a series win. It's always a little more fun for me to talk about the Giants when things are going a little better versus when they are going a little bit worse. So, also a reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. And also, not only do we cover your team every day, but now we're giving you instant episodes after every single game. You may have seen this today. Check out the Locked On Giants postcast right here on the Locked On Giants podcast feed, as well as streaming on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. Get rapid reaction with Eric Engel right after the game to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Giants postcast. It's on this Locked On Sports Bay Area on YouTube live, and then not live. It shows up on this Locked On Giants podcast feed that's not the YouTube version. So hopefully by now you've seen this, but just giving you a heads up. Anyway, so the Giants' upcoming schedule is 4 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks, when you look at their record, it's 9-10. I believe that is counting a loss today to the Cubs, I think it is. And so they're 7-6 at home, 2-4 on the road, 2-7 against teams that are currently above 500. What scares me, though, is that their run differential is plus 19. So they and the Giants have played the same number of games, 19 games. And what's a little bit insane is that if you look at it, the Diamondbacks have scored 106 runs in those 19 games, which comes out to 5.6 runs a game, essentially. So more often 6 than 5. 5 or 6, more often 6. Whereas the Giants have scored just 79, again, compared to 106 for the Diamondbacks. So for the Giants, 79 divided by 16 is 4.9 runs a game. So I guess, I mean, it sounds like a huge gap, but it's kind of not, like 5.5 to 5, basically. But the Giants need to pitch better. This is what I'm saying. They're allowing too many runs. That's a lot of runs scored for Arizona. But the Diamondbacks have allowed 4 fewer runs than the Giants. I guess, wait, what am I was about to say, but they've pitched or played more games, but that's the Dodgers and the Padres, because they started the season in South Korea, so they have a couple extra games played. But so pitching wise, that's been the Diamondbacks' issue, is that they've allowed a lot of runs just like the Giants, but they've also scored a lot of runs. So they've outscored their opponents by 19 compared to the Giants. They've been outscored by 12. So that's what scares me a little bit. The expected record for Arizona is 11-8 versus an actual record of 9-10. So they come in like a bit of an unlucky team, whereas the Giants' expected record is 8-11 and their actual record is 8-11. The good news is the Giants are coming home. The good news is the Giants have a really strong starting rotation on paper, theoretically. Logan Webb. It's just crazy how good it is. Like every single night, maybe you worry about like the Keaton Winn start a little bit, but honestly, as we get to the numbers, he's been good. And so then you're going Webb in the opener, Snell in game 2, and his ERA is like 13, which is, I've discussed, of course, that's unsustainably high and not nearly at all reflective of how he is as a pitcher. And then it says TBD for the Giants on Saturday, but that would be Kyle Harrison's spot. But they could, yeah, I mean, they're not going to go with Jordan Hicks. They're not going to switch Jordan Hicks because there's no day off here. So it would probably be Harrison and then Hicks. But each and every night, these starting pitchers should give the Giants a chance to win, and that should take effect over the course of a 162-game season, especially when we consider Alex Cobb coming back and Robbie Ray coming back. So health, obviously important. And then when we look at the offense, I just think they're better than what they've done so far. And so I feel good about where the Giants are at. But this is a big series, and it's not just a 3-game series. It is a 4-game series with the Diamondbacks, who are obviously slightly ahead. They're just 1 game ahead of the Giants in the standings. So, you know, if one team goes 3-4 or sweeps the series, I mean, this could just make a dramatic switch in the early season standings. I would, if I had to guess, I'm going to say, like, I don't know. It's tough. Like I could see it going 3-4 either way, and I could also see a split. 4-game series are really tough to sweep for either side, but the Giants being home and having Webb and Snell and Harrison and Hicks, D-backs have some good pitching too, but that's a good group every single night for the Giants. This is just a team that hasn't hit their stride yet, but winning a series, this is the longest flight you can take for a team, or for the Giants at least, from Miami all the way back to San Francisco. Important to get a win, right? Happy flight, long flight, game tomorrow, no off day. So if you come out of this with a loss, your record would be 7-12. You would have gone 2-4 on this road trip. Instead, it's a respectable 3-3. If I had to make a prediction, I probably would have said 3-3 on this trip, with losing 2 out of 3 in Tampa and winning 2 out of 3 in Miami. Maybe I would have got a little greedy and said 4-2, hoping you could maybe sweep the Marlins or maybe win both series. But it is what it is, and 3-3 is acceptable, and they're going to feel fine about it heading home. But they got to take care of business playing a tough D-backs team. It's like just like they've had trouble going into Miami, they've also kind of, in the last couple of years, when their record has ended up around 500, they have had a tough time at times dealing with the Arizona Diamondbacks. But, Patrick Bailey has started limiting the running game better than he did in the early season. I told you not to be worried about him defensively, and he's bounced back. He did a little, what is it, Matumbo? I don't know. I'm not a basketball guy. I'm sorry. But the guy who does the wagging finger, he did that today on Jazz Chisholm after throwing him out. So that was awesome to see. Framing's still been good from Bailey. He's hitting pretty well to start the season. So I do want to dive into some of the statistics, look at Keaton Winn's numbers after the start today, updated statistics there, and also checking in on some of the hitters, because really it's the hitters who haven't hit their stride, but also it's the pitching. Like I said, the pitching has actually been more of an issue. So I would say defensively, they've been pretty solid, pretty darn solid, but hitting wise and just overall pitching wise, certain guys like Blake Snell, ERA 13, like they just haven't, they're not playing great yet. And yet they're still having a record that's more than, I mean, I don't want to say more than respectable, but respectable enough and in it enough. It's not, I mean, they're not the White Sox who are 3-15 after a win just now. So, anyway, we'll get into some of what I'm seeing in the numbers. And Keaton Winn, just checking in on the stats that were already looking like he was having an unlucky start to the season, and he goes out there and has a really good outing. So we will discuss that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Game Time also a good friend, but FanDuel is who sponsors this show today. It's playoff time in the NBA. I'm sorry, Warriors fans. And NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. It really doesn't get any better than that if you're making a bet, right? Like an automatic 150 in bonus bets. And they're, baseball betting is out there and in full swing. You can do all kinds of stuff. I'm already seeing the odds for this game tomorrow with the Giants, and they are favorites. The money line at -180 for the Giants to win. The point spread or run spread at -1.5 for the Giants at +125 odds. So just check it out. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, as promised, we are going to check in on some early season statistics for the Giants, as I love to do, as you know I love to do. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And every dayers tomorrow, either we're going to be talking with Millard from Locked On D-backs, which is always a good time, or we are going to be doing a mailbag. And so if Millard's not able to do it, then what we're going to do is put out a prompt on Twitter tonight. So jumping back into the action, the Giants came into the game with an ERA of 4.97. I think I said that already, that's what it was. Keaton Winn, I do just want to single him out here. So he came into this game with an ERA of 5.06 and an expected ERA that was more than a run lower at 4.03, fielding independent pitching of 3.93. And so basically looked like he didn't deserve to be anywhere close to an ERA of 5, like probably a full run better than that. And with this outing today, I mean, my goodness, one of the things that jumps off the page is the ground ball rate. I guess he did that last year too. But with Webb and Hicks and Keaton Winn in particular, they've got 3 of the top ground ball pitchers in the sport right there. And with this outing, everything kind of stabilized. Like I said, the expected ERA for Winn coming into the game was 4.03, and his ERA after this game is 4.09. And so that's kind of like, I just love when statistics kind of show up in that way where, the expected ERA was more predictive of where he'd end up after today than his actual ERA was, which was 5.06. And now the ERA is 4.09. The fielding independent pitching is 4.11, which is almost identical. And so that's just how it is when you get more and more of a sample with players. And so that's nice to see. The ground ball rate is off the charts, and it was just a really good outing. And it's not like he's had a home run issue. That was only the second home run that Keaton Winn has allowed. So walks had kind of been a surprising issue for him, but he only walked one today. One walk, 4 strikeouts, 1 run. It was a homer, 4 hits in total, 6 innings. So Keaton Winn and Logan Webb and certainly Jordan Hicks and even Kyle Harrison, Blake Snell. I feel good about the pitchers. And, there's a little bit of uncertain. You got certain guys coming out of the bullpen that maybe are unproven. And so there's certainly some questions there. But Eric Miller had just a fabulous outing today. 1 inning, faced 3 hitters, struck out 1, no runners at all, no walks, no hits. And you look at his ERA now is 6, but the fielding independent pitching is 3.69. Coming into today, the expected ERA 3.16. So you are seeing like unluckiness with some of the Giants pitchers. And so as the season continues to roll on, I just expect the pitching to get significantly better. And there's a bunch of hitters as well that I know will be much better. I mean, guys like Wilmer Flores, Matt Chapman, who we saw do some good things offensively in this series. These guys are just going to be better than they've been. And I'm going to be clear, there are guys who are doing better than we should expect, like Lamont Wade. What's interesting is his expected numbers are exceptionally good, just like his actual numbers, but this is why I call batting average on balls in play a sustainability indicator, not so much a luck indicator. He's hitting the cover off the ball. He's hitting the ball very hard and walking a lot, but it's just he literally came into this game today with a 571 batting average on balls in play. And if you know anything about batting average on balls in play, even if that came down by 200 points, that would still be really high. And so he's got a long way to fall in bat. It's just not going to stay that high, but it doesn't mean he hasn't actually earned what he's earned. He's just crushing the ball. Even his out today, that's a good sign. I almost in a way am like, oh, good. He made an out, but he still smoked the ball, because that batting average on balls in play goes down, but the the expected numbers based on how well you're hitting the ball stay good. And so that's, I don't know, I'm sick in that way, and that to me makes sense logically. We've also got Nick Ahmed suddenly playing at an above average offensive level coming into this game. So he went 0 for 4 today, so then he falls below average, and his batting average on balls in play is also quite high at 341, which, in his career it is just 275. So that has a long way to fall, but he's been very solid defensively. As I said before the season, the arm is just kind of the one thing. Patrick Bailey, nice little offensive start to the season. 111 weighted runs created plus coming into today, and he had a nice day. He went 1 for 4 with a walk and a steal and threw a guy out at second, Jazz Chisholm, in a big spot. So, when you're getting good defense and some offense out of your catcher, that is just a huge plus. And I don't know, Jorge Soler just kind of took some swing out today and had a nice day. Jung-Hoo Lee had a couple more hits, started a 2-out rally. So I don't know, not a lot of power out of Jung-Hoo Lee yet. And Jorge Soler, even though he's looked like he's quote unquote struggled, he's still been about 20% above league average. And then it's really guys like Matt Chapman, Austin Slater, Wilmer Flores, and Mike Yastrzemski who are Thairo Estrada as well, though he's clearly coming out of it and getting hotter and hotter at the plate. Just lastly, checking in on those two, Estrada raised his numbers to about 15% below average. I think going into this road trip, he was 80% below average. So he continues to prove that track records matter. And Matt Chapman just had I guess it was a mediocre day at the end of the day, 1 for 4 with a double. is about league average production. So he's been about 15% below average versus about 15% above average in his major league career at the plate. And so, I don't know, a team that's just not performing particularly well, still being 8-11. I'm cool with that. And I think that it's a very long season. They're obviously going to have to play better, but once they start clicking, I feel like this is a team that could get hot. And my opinion on them hasn't changed, which was going into the year that they look like one of the, to me, certainly a wild card contender and perhaps one of the upper echelon wild card contenders. But hey, go prove it against the D-backs, a team that a lot of people consider an upper echelon wild card contender. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, mailbag, Millard, one or the other. Flip a coin. I don't know. Hopefully Millard. I want to preview this series, although talking about it after is also fun. So we'll see. Anyway, once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out tremendously. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.